At first he talked. He told you what bothered him. He explained when he felt ignored. He expressed when something hurt his feelings. Maybe he even over-explained. Then something shifted. The complaints stopped. The conversations became shorter. The emotional transparency faded. And now you are sitting there wondering, why does he not talk about how he feels anymore? Most women assume silence means peace. They believe that if he is not complaining, then everything must be fine. But psychology tells a different story. Silence is not always satisfaction. Sometimes silence is surrender. In relationships across the United States, one of the most misunderstood dynamics is male emotional withdrawal. A man who once voiced his frustrations suddenly becomes calm, distant, and almost indifferent. He no longer argues about small things. He no longer explains what bothers him. He no longer fights for emotional resolution. On the surface, it looks mature. Underneath, it can mean something deeper. Many women interpret this change as emotional growth, but often it is emotional fatigue. Men do not stop complaining because they stopped caring. They stop complaining because they believe complaining no longer works. Psychology shows that when a person repeatedly feels unheard, dismissed, criticized, or misunderstood, the brain begins to conserve emotional energy. Instead of pushing for connection, it pulls back for protection. And here is the part most people never talk about. When a man stops complaining, he may already be emotionally detaching. He is not trying to punish you. He is trying to preserve himself. Understanding why this happens can completely transform how you approach communication in your relationship. It can help you distinguish between emotional maturity and emotional shutdown. It can show you how to create an environment where a man feels safe expressing vulnerability without feeling weak, judged, or dismissed. Today, we are breaking down the psychology of why men stop complaining about love, what is happening inside their minds when they go silent, and how women can respond in a way that restores emotional connection without chasing, begging, or losing attraction. Because silence in love is rarely random. It is usually a response. And when you understand the response, you gain the power to change the pattern. Let us begin. First, we need to understand how men are socially conditioned to handle emotion. From childhood, many men in American culture are taught a subtle but powerful message: control your feelings. Boys are often discouraged from emotional expression. They are praised for toughness and independence. Over time, they internalize the belief that vulnerability equals weakness. When a man chooses to complain or express emotional discomfort in a relationship, he is often stepping outside of that conditioning. It requires effort and courage. It means he trusts you enough to be emotionally open. However, if that vulnerability is met with criticism, defensiveness, sarcasm, or dismissal, the brain registers it as emotional risk. The mind begins to calculate. If expressing my feelings creates more conflict instead of connection, why continue? This leads to emotional shutdown. Second, repeated unresolved conflict trains withdrawal. Psychologists refer to this as learned helplessness. When someone repeatedly tries to solve a problem but feels their efforts do not create change, they eventually stop trying. Imagine a man says, "I feel unappreciated when you dismiss my work stress." If the response he receives is, "You are too sensitive," or "You are overreacting," his brain associates emotional sharing with rejection. After several experiences like this, he adapts. Instead of arguing, he withdraws. Instead of complaining, he internalizes. Instead of explaining, he disengages. This is not emotional strength. It is emotional self-protection. Third, men often stop complaining when they feel respect has decreased. Research in relationship psychology consistently shows that respect is a core emotional need for men. While women often prioritize emotional closeness and security, many men prioritize admiration and respect. If he feels belittled, corrected constantly, or compared negatively to other men, he may initially complain. But if nothing changes, he eventually stops speaking up. Why? Because complaining requires hope. silence requires no. When hope for change disappears, communication decreases. Fourth, some men stop complaining because they fear appearing weak. In modern dating culture, there is a strong emphasis on confidence and emotional control. Many men believe that expressing dissatisfaction may reduce attraction. If he once voiced concerns and noticed you pulling away emotionally or losing admiration for him, he may decide silence is safer. He may think, if I stay calm and unbothered, I maintain strength. Unfortunately, emotional suppression does not eliminate feelings. It buries them. And buried feelings often resurface as distance, irritability, or emotional detachment. Fifth, emotional burnout plays a major role. When a man feels he is constantly the one initiating serious conversations, defending his feelings, or trying to fix relational tension, he can become emotionally exhausted. Burnout leads to minimal effort. He stops complaining not because he is satisfied, but because he is tired. In psychological terms, this is energy conservation. The brain naturally avoids activities that consistently lead to stress without reward. Now let us talk about what happens internally when he goes silent. Emotionally withdrawn men often experience a mixture of frustration and resignation. They may still care deeply. They may still want connection, but they convince themselves that speaking up is pointless. Over time, this creates emotional distance. He becomes more independent. He shares less. He invests less emotionally. And here is the dangerous part. Once a man emotionally detaches, re-engagement becomes difficult. Because detachment feels peaceful. Conflict may be uncomfortable, but emotional numbness feels stable. So how can women respond in a healthy, psychologically intelligent way? First, create emotional safety. When he expresses frustration, resist the urge to defend immediately. Instead, acknowledge his feeling. For example, I did not realize you felt that way. Help me understand. Validation does not mean agreement. It means recognition. When a man feels heard, his nervous system relaxes. He becomes more willing to communicate. Second, avoid shamming language. Statements like, "You are too sensitive," or "real men would not care about that," damage trust. Even subtle sarcasm can reinforce emotional withdrawal. Respectful communication encourages vulnerability. Disrespect shuts it down. Third, reward emotional openness. If he shares something vulnerable, respond with appreciation. "Thank you for telling me that. I know it is not easy." Positive reinforcement strengthens communication patterns. Fourth, maintain attraction while improving communication. One common mistake is overpursuing when he withdraws. Constantly asking, "What is wrong?" or pressuring him to talk can increase resistance. Instead, balance warmth with calm confidence. Give space without hostility. Stay receptive without chasing. Psychology shows that people open up more when they feel invited rather than forced. Fifth, reflect on patterns honestly. Ask yourself, when he used to complain, how did I respond? Did I listen fully? Did I interrupt? Did I dismiss his perspective? Growth requires accountability on both sides. Now it is important to clarify something. Not all silence means emotional detachment. Some men naturally process internally. The key difference is engagement level. If he is silent but still affectionate, attentive, and invested, he may simply have a reserved communication style. But if silence is paired with emotional distance, decreased effort, and lack of engagement, that signals withdrawal. Understanding this difference prevents unnecessary panic. Finally, communication must be mutual. Healthy relationships require both partners to feel safe expressing discomfort. If only one person can complain while the other remains silent, imbalance develops. True emotional intimacy is built when both individuals feel heard without fear of ridicule or rejection. In summary, men stop complaining about love for several psychological reasons. They feel unheard. They feel disrespected. They fear appearing weak. They experience learned helplessness. They become emotionally burned out. Silence is often a protective adaptation, not indifference. When women understand this dynamic, they gain influence, not control, but influence rooted in emotional intelligence. Instead of reacting to silence with frustration, they respond with curiosity and calm strength. And when emotional safety returns, communication often follows. Because most men do not actually want to be silent. They want to feel understood without feeling diminished. Silence in love is rarely the absence of feeling. It is often the presence of unspoken disappointment. When you understand the psychology behind male emotional withdrawal, you stop taking silence personally and start responding strategically. Emotional intelligence transforms confusion into clarity and distance into reconnection. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Psych Therapy for more deeply researched, practical relationship psychology. We break down the hidden dynamics shaping modern love so you can build healthier, stronger connections. Join our growing community and turn knowledge into relationship power.